Good morning. You are very welcome to the Virtual Recruitment Expo on a virtual stage this year. So we're very glad to welcome all of you. I know there's thousands of people who've actually registered for the event today. We are delighted that you will be able to join us. A great lined up. There are a number of brilliant speakers, to be quite honest, along the lines of effective communication in the workplace, how to achieve career resilience. Things that were important, 18 months ago are just as important now. So we're addressing a lot of these today. We have speakers from Boston Scientific. We have Think for Purpose. Fiona Fennell is going to be talking about achieving career resilience. Now, we also, if you've had a look around on the platform on virtualrecruitment.ie, you'll be able to see that there's also the Google Digital Garage. Now that opens at 10:45 this morning, so you have a little bit of time yet. And there's going to be 3 training sessions done on the Google Digital Garage. Again, this is all on virtualrecruitment.ie if you have a look across the top of the first page. Now, as well as the speakers, the Google Digital Garage, we also have some amazing exhibitors today, which, like if you remember seminars and conferences in the past where you would have gone into a room and gone up to a stand and met people and talked to them. You can do that today, albeit virtually. So we have some of Ireland's biggest employers here today at the Virtual Recruitment Expo. We have the likes of Revenue.ie, the Irish Defence Forces, InnoPharma, Home Instead Senior Care, Rehab Group, Lidl, Intel, and the list goes on. So when you do have a couple of minutes, have a look through that list. You can go and speak to them. Their recruitment agents will be there and you'll be able to find out what jobs are available, what opportunities there are. So I'll be reminding you of some of these things as the day goes on. So at this stage, I would like to welcome our first speaker to the virtual stage at the Virtual Recruitment Expo. He is Luke Treacy. Now, Luke is the General Manager of the Dublin Coding School. It's a new tech education business currently based in Dunleary. And he's going to talk about how tech has changed the world of work and addressing the tech skill gap. Luke, it's lovely to see you here this morning. It looks like there's a bit of sun shining where you are as well, which is always good. And we're hoping that we may have time at the end for a couple of questions. So you're going to speak for maybe 20, 25 minutes, and then we'll have 5 minutes thereabouts for questions. So again, if you're watching this virtually, as with all the Zooms, which we're so used to now, you can just pop your questions in the chat function, and we'll hopefully have time to ask them at the end. So Luke Treacy, without further ado, you're very welcome to the Virtual Recruitment Expo, and you are first to take to the stage. So I'll hand it all over to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's great to be here. Thank you to yourself and the organisers for inviting me. And I suppose, hello from Dunleary. It is quite sunny. That's the sun coming in from just near the People's Park. I'll just share my screen. Get this going. There's no. Yeah, we'll get going. So I'll maybe start a bit about me. You introduced me there, but I'm the General Manager of the Dublin Coding School. I have an MBA from Imperial College London. I have studied artificial intelligence at MIT and digital strategies before at Oxford, and various previous roles, but one of them may be relevant to what I'm doing now was I was the Managing Director of an AI IoT focused research business in London on Silicon Roundabout. So that's just a bit about me. So the Dublin Coding School. So as you said, we're a tech education provider, but we also have a career centre which helps people who are looking to change their careers get into the new world of tech and all the opportunities that are there. I might speak a bit more about that later. But the presentation today, the topic was, how has the world of work changed and what is the tech skills gap? So I'm going to talk about that a bit after. What I would like to talk about first is what's driving this change. And I broke it down into 4 areas. So this is about the world of work first. So there's really technology innovation, customer expectations, government policy, and natural competition in markets. So I'll start off with technology innovation. Now, I remember when I was at school, I remember the first guy to get a beeper. And we were all, I think, probably in 4th year or something. And this beeper went off and everyone think, what's that? And we asked him, what's that for? And he said, well, in case someone's calling me. And we said, well, who'd be calling you? Everyone you know is in this room. And of course, we just couldn't see the logic in having a phone then. But now mobile phones are ubiquitous. And, you have, as they say, there's more technology in an iPhone now than put a man on the moon that NASA had available at the time. So technology has really moved on, and people's view of technology has moved on, and their expectations of how technology works has changed. And that all has an impact on the companies who are delivering that, or any service. So as we mentioned there, this is the sort of from the 90s, what phones used to look like. The big block phones, and then you've moved through, if any of you are old enough to remember those. So now we'll talk about customer expectations and what this technology advancement has meant for that. So this is a term you may or may not have heard of, but I know marketers talk about it, which is we now live in a hyper-connected world with hyper-connected people. And what that means is you're connected on many levels with many things and people. So how many apps are on your phone right now? You know, you can call people, email them, send a tweet, get a message on Instagram, reply on Facebook. You know, it goes on and on and on. So people are very much connected. And then it's businesses have to think, we need to be connected too. We need to be on all these platforms. We need to communicate with our customers in this way. And of course, they need staff then to be able to manage those communications because the customers expect it. And as we say, there's spillover. So spillover just means in your personal life, you're using all this stuff, you expect it now, that kind of service when you're dealing with a company in your private life or when you're dealing with a business. So companies, as we said, need to react and be digital first. They have to manage these various digital channels. They need to be storing and analyzing data, and their services. You know, if you book something online, how many of you done this? When you book something on Amazon, you're immediately checking your email. And if it doesn't come through within a few minutes, you think something's wrong. That expectation will be there when you're dealing with a small Irish business as well. If you're ordering marmalade or something from someone in Kerry, you'll be, oh, I didn't get an email about that. Maybe it didn't go through. So that expectation of technology is just becoming ingrained in the customer. Just a quick example of how the banking sector has moved on. So how do you communicate with your bank? You know, in the past, they were very inflexible, weren't they? You could only go in between certain times. They'd always shut for lunch, lock the doors. You know, it was all on their terms. But now with online banking, it's 24 hours a day. They have scores of data analysts, you know, watching you, tracking your movements and analyzing what they should do next. So the way banks operate has completely changed. In the old days, even before my time, you know, this is what a bank was. We're looking at Wells Fargo there in the Wild West in the States, one of the first banks. You know, what do you think was on these guys' CV? So it's physical security, being able to do maths, paper money. These were the tellers. But nowadays, banking executives are into data analysis, as we said, cybersecurity, algorithms, managing apps, completely different world. And the staff that they need to hire, completely different now. So a quick story on this. Banks also are looking to drive efficiency. Barclays, the bank in England, had this app called Ping It. And that was a bit like their answer to PayPal, where you could send money to somebody. And you might think it was for you know, them trying to react for the younger people who are used to these types of apps. But actually, they found that grandparents were sending a disproportionate amount of checks through the post to their grandchildren, millions of checks a year. And they were having to hire more and more staff in sorting houses to sort out all of these checks from grandparents. And Barclays, you know, being this, well, I shan't say cynical bank, but they want to make profit. They didn't want all of these people in the sorting house. So they aggressively marketed Ping It to grandparents to get them to send money to their grandchildren there so they could lay off all the people in the sorting house and just have a few people managing the app and a data scientists and all the rest of it, and maybe a marketer. So that's how Barclays drove efficiency there. Right, government policy. The world of work and technology advancement in the workplace can come through government policy as well. Now, I was going to show a German example. So made in Germany, big brand globally, you know, cars, engineering products. In 2012, they rolled out the Industry 4.0 or 4.0, as they call it. And that was what they viewed as the fourth industrial revolution. What it really meant was the government was going to give incentives to manufacturers to digitize and, you know, become more technologically savvy. The reason they did this was they saw that China and Asia was rising in manufacturing, and the Germans didn't want to lower the wages of their workers. They didn't want to compete the way China might be competing, which is in low wages and lots of workers. So they wanted to compete through efficiency. So they rolled out this policy where they were giving breaks to companies who would implement the Internet of Things, connectivity, cybersecurity, automate their processes. If you see there, what we mean by 4.0 is, you know, the first industrial revolution. You see it in Yorkshire in England with steam power. Then you get into mass production. Then in the 80s, you get a bit of electronics. And now we're getting into really connected machines talking to each other and all the rest of it. And that's what the Germans were calling Industry 4.0. But of course, that policy generated so many new jobs and changed the way manufacturers were working. So it was out with the old, in with the new, and the workplace changes. Again, if you look into these factories, what they're using now in Germany, it's all about data analytics, smart devices, connectivity, embedded chips in these, talking to each other, talking to the staff, also 3D printing, that kind of thing. So completely changed. Right, competition in markets, how's that driving change? So let's look at retail as an example. So if you remember the 90s, I do, and they used to compete on price all the time, retailers, and there was the baked bean wars and the bread wars. It was possible at one stage to go into a supermarket and get 5 cents paid to you to get a can of baked beans, because what they were doing was lowering the price to try and get customers, until eventually they said, we'll give you a free can if you come in and do your shopping here. So this is really no way to compete, because it's a race to the bottom and the companies are losing money. So what they did was, they now have this Mexican standoff. Have you ever seen where they say, we'll match the price of our competitors? Well, that's not a message to you. That's a message to the competitors saying, don't go there. We'll match you all the way. And we're willing to cut off our nose to spite our face too. So the way they compete nowadays is on technology. So they have the apps, they're giving you offers through it. They have smart shelves. You mightn't know this, but in the shelves in supermarkets all have sensors on them, telling someone in the back when to restock them. That's the data coming through. Of course, they need data analysts to manage all of this. They need web developers to create these apps. They need software testers to make sure it's all working. And these were jobs that just weren't in retail even 10 years ago. So that's how that's changing quite quickly, actually. Just to look at how certain jobs have changed. If you look at the role of a marketer, so a marketing manager in the old days, the top there might be their desk where they're typing out some copy, making a phone call, and probably arranging to meet a client in the pub. They've got their camera to take something. In the middle, then it becomes a little bit more digital. And now it's all about analytics, isn't it? So we move on. So, they've gone from this, which is sort of about creativity, copywriting, coming up with ads for the radio and little jingles, to this, where it's a very technical role now. You're looking at web design, data analytics, social media management, customer segmentation, very, very technically capable. And my view up here to this point in time, would they even be able to do the job? I don't think they would. So that's how much that's changed. So what does this all mean? Companies need skills to keep up. It's as simple as that. The new jobs have been created because they need to digitize to engage with customers or to take advantage of government regulations. So they need either staff who can do these skills or to upskill people in their own company. So let's look at the skills gap. So that's the second part. So if we look at data analytics, for example, IBM this year have said that over the last 3 years, ads for data analyst jobs have gone up 28%. That's in the Western world. LinkedIn, a website which a lot of people use, it's kind of a website where you have your own online CV, if you don't know. They did a survey and the data analytics came out third in the top 10 jobs emerging at the moment. So that all sounds great. But the European Commission has estimated that there'll be, look at that, 484,000 positions in data analytics unfilled. So that means there'll be job adverts in Europe for these roles, but they don't have enough data analysts or trained people to fill them. So how does that look in Ireland? So if we look here, Skills Ireland have predicted a shortfall in computer skills up to 146,000 by 2022. And I mean, that's next year. So their prediction is that there'll be 140-odd thousand jobs which will be unfilled because the skills aren't there in Ireland in a year's time. And they also said there's 8,000 tech jobs coming on stream annually. I mean, I would argue there might be more than that. I personally track all of the companies announcing new jobs every week. You see it through the IDA. I know this because I end up calling the companies to talk to them. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of jobs coming on stream. And as Skills Ireland are saying, there's a gap. So what's causing this? So if you look at this, this is a couple of researchers from Harvard. And what they're saying is, if you look at that line, it looks like DNA strand, if any of you watch murder programs when they're looking for to do the DNA. But if you look there, the green line is education and the blue line is technology advancement. And what they're saying is, when technology moves ahead of education, you end up with this gap workforce, basically. So what's the solution? It's education. And I suppose we hope we're part of that at the Dublin Coding School. So maybe I'll just talk a bit about what we do and how we try to help bridge that gap in Ireland. So our courses, we offer short and intensive courses. They're all practical and hands-on. They're focused on the tech jobs market. So we do a lot of research into what jobs are being advertised. And if we see enough jobs being advertised in a certain area, we'll create a course on it. They're live and interactive. So we're not going to send you pre-recorded videos. Everything we do is live. If it's the online class, you're live with a lecturer, you're doing the hands-on practical work. We're hoping to open a facility post-COVID, but I'm not going to say when because we've all been in lockdown for a long time and we're only going to do it when it's safe. But we will have a school. We have 3 other schools across Europe that have been going for 5 years, and we have facilities and online options. So that's what we do. So who are these courses for? Adults who want to change their career. So it's just, and it's also designed for beginners. So if you're watching this and you're thinking, that's not for me, I don't know anything about tech, that's actually who we're looking for. We're looking for people who are beginners. We're training you to an entry level, some to an intermediate. And we really are looking for, now anyone can come along as long as they're over 18, but it's really designed for adults. Maybe you've had 2 or 3 jobs, you see which way the wind is blowing and you want to change your career. And that's who we are for. So some of the students currently studying the school, because we've got live courses going, they're coming from retail, construction, hospitality. We even have a beautician who's studying data analytics. So it really is for everybody. These are the course topics at the moment. So this is where we see jobs growth in Ireland at the moment, is what we're really saying here. Data analytics, web development, full stack, software testing. And then we do the basics of coding. If you're really unsure of which way to go, you can do that one as a kind of a, let's have a look. Or the basics of coding can be for people who maybe have a sales role in a tech company and want to learn a bit more about who they're selling to, that type of thing. Our lecturers. So it's very important to say we don't have academics as our lecturers. All of our lecturers are professionals working in the field. The idea is to learn how to do a job from someone already doing it. So some of the places where our current lecturers work are Bank of Ireland, Fiserv, TikTok, Facebook, Wayfair, that's the major American retailer. Rent the Runway, if you know them, they're a big New York fashion brand. So top lecturers from top companies currently. We also have a career center. So what we do is once you've done the course, we will help you with your CV, your online presence, and we'll share your profile with our partner companies. We partner with hiring companies throughout Ireland who are looking for entry-level graduates. And we also prepare you for interviews. So if you've got an interview tomorrow, we'd have a Zoom with you the day before, check out the company, get some ready-made answers for you, get you confident, give you some questions to go, and get you going in there. So it almost becomes like a competitive sport to you as opposed to something you're afraid of. And we also will be organizing jobs fairs and things like that. We have, just to finish on that, we have a second chance policy. So if you're on one of our courses, you can do it again within 12 calendar months for free, just in case it doesn't sink in, because the courses are short. And we're the only coding school that offers that. So you get a 2-for-1 automatically when you book with us. So how to contact us? So it's dublincoding.ie, or you can get me personally at luke@dublincoding.ie. And we're on all of the channels here. YouTube, we're always putting up our events that we do, and we're on. So please do get in touch if you'd have any questions or would like to follow up. And that sort of brings me to the end. So I'm not sure how I'm doing for time, but we have time for questions. I'm more than happy to take them. So I'll just stop share there and go back to the chairperson. It's like one of those when you're watching the news and they don't cut to the clip and they leave the newsreader there. But I'm sure they'll be back soon. maybe I'll just give you the website again. So it's dublincoding.ie, and the emails are luke@dublincoding.ie if you are interested in any of the courses. So they're in, yeah. We're back. I think you're on mute there. That's okay. I don't think we still can't hear.
Now,
there you go.
How's that?
Yeah, that's great.
Thank you for your patience. I was just saying, there's always somebody on Zoom who does that, and this time around it was me. So, Luke, thank you for that. And what I found most interesting, I think, was that you're looking for beginners, absolute beginners. And I suppose from that perspective, if there's somebody watching this thinking, I need a brand new career, COVID has just made me change my mind. Maybe they're at a situation where they don't have the opportunities that they had. Is there a kind of person, you say any beginner, but is there a kind of person it would very much suit? Are we talking maybe somebody who's good at maths, somebody who's good creatively?
That's a good question. No, you don't need to be great at maths. That's kind of one of the great myths about coding or data analytics. I mean, certainly it would help because logical mind, but it really isn't about the basic skills of maths. But no, you don't need to have any particular skills. You shouldn't be scared away by that. They are designed for complete beginners, people who are looking to change their careers, and we really hold your hand and lead you through it from the start. So we introduce everything, as you know, as if you're hearing it for the first time, and take you through it step by step. So they won't train you to an advanced level. They'll get you to beginner entry level, where you can go in and maybe get an internship or an entry level role. So if you're working in hospitality, I mean, if I'll maybe go through our current class in data analytics. The profile is, we have a beautician who's done an online marketing course, wants to do data analytics. We've got someone who's been the manager of a hotel in hospitality who's there. We have someone who's managing a couple of retail shops, a couple of fashion retail shop. So, and we have someone who's an electrician and who's actually moved to the country with their family and wants to work from home. So profile, they're basically people, very normal people who have normal jobs, but they just want to move now into technology. Or if they're out of work, they've maybe worked in construction, something like that, that somebody just signed up and wants to change their career. So it is for beginners. You don't need any prior knowledge or experience. But what we will do is we'll match your experience with the course you're doing to come up with a career story for you to tell to future employers. That's something we do in the Career Centre. But as far as the course goes, and you don't need any skills or prior knowledge.
Okay, that's fascinating. And I love the idea that you can help somebody sort of find their path as they learn the skills from yourselves. Now, I'm curious as well, Luke, if I can ask you this, because I know, I see from your credentials here, not only have you got an MBA from Imperial College London, but you've studied artificial intelligence in Massachusetts. And I'm wondering, because when people talk about artificial intelligence, I think they're afraid that humans are going to be left with no employment and it will be the robots taking over. I'm presuming that you would argue that we need people to be able to do the programming, the coding, and all of that behind the scenes. Or am I totally wrong in that?
No, you're right there. So data analytics is really just managing databases. We're training people to retrieve data, visualize it, and then show it back to other departments and their colleagues. I mean, artificial intelligence, just to go on to that point, isn't really anything to be scared of either. And the human brain is far more powerful than a computer could ever be in certain ways. But when you talk about artificial intelligence, you're really talking about three things. One is robotics, so robots, and you know that could be one in a factory. You're talking about machine learning, so it's about a machine seeing something and then sort of learning from it, or natural language processing. And natural language processing is when you talk to Alexa and say, can you play my favorite song? And it understands the language you're saying and plays it. Or a computer can read text that you send to it and respond. So language is, and actually there's a lovely case study on natural language processing, which was in America. This person noticed that baseball, you know, the mini leagues, and all these 12-year-olds were playing baseball, and he got an AI algorithm to report on the matches that were being played between schools. And it would write up a little write-up going, you know, today Johnny hit a home run, this other person struck out, the game was back and forth. And he then did that, and it went away and wrote up articles for every mini league baseball game being played in schools for 12-year-olds across America. All it needed was the result and the team sheets to do it. And he published them. And suddenly millions of people were downloading these and reading them. And all the kids got a page as if they were in the sports pages. And because he realized that nobody was going to do a write-up for all of these baseball matches because there's too many and they're kids. But it wasn't really important to millions of people, but it was very important to one person and one pair of parents. So it was a way that natural language processing sort of serviced a whole unserviced area, if you like. And his website then, the cynical part might be that you're advertising to parents who have 12-year-olds, but it's an example that's an AI sort of a solution that you mightn't associate with AI.
Yeah. You talked as well about gaps in people's skill sets. And I'm wondering, is it a case that, let's say, as you mentioned, somebody who's, in one field of employment and they need to upskill, can you help somebody to identify what it is? Because if, for instance, somebody like me, I would think, oh, I need to upskill, but I don't know what exactly I need in terms of coding. Is that something that you could it be almost a personalized service that you would help somebody find the niche that they need?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have the Career Centre with guidance counselors. And what they'll do is they'll talk about what your history is, what your aspirations are, and what you're looking to achieve. And then they'll look to match that and get you into the right course to do that. So that's absolutely something we do.
Now, I have some questions here. Do we need to download various coding software to carry out courses? And are there separate costs associated with that?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's a really good question, actually. No, there won't be any extra costs. So once you book the course and you've paid, there are no extra costs and there's no kind of tricks or anything like that. You will download stuff and the lecturers will bring you through it. You get a manual. We have a student hub. So when you're registered, you go into the hub and all your things are there. You have a manual of what you need to download, but they're all free. And we run, on the coding, the web development course, you're coding, but we're using some open source stuff. The lecturers bring you through it. And we have our own logins. And then on the data analytics, the first class, they're helping you learn all of the places you need to go, what you need to do to log in. They walk through it. So if you're worried about having to do all this on your own before the course, no, we walk you through everything. And you don't have to buy any software to do the course. What you need is a functioning laptop and good Wi-Fi and Zoom for the online courses. And of course, the motivation is key as well.
So that was a great question. That was from Paul Brophy, who's an industrial engineer. Daniel Collins says, when do you think the UX UI web design course will take place? I guess that's probably information that's
a good question too. Yeah, on our website, I think we're saying that we're developing that. We're rolling that out in other countries, and we're looking to do that probably in the second half of this year. Maybe towards the end of the summer, we'll have a course on that. That's a good question. We expect it to be a popular one.
Okay, a couple more questions. Let me see. We've talked about, Irina's asked the question, how to know which course is right for me. And we've kind of talked about that a little bit, about you helping people to, or your guidance counselors helping people to identify the gaps in their skill set.
Yeah, and me. And look, if she's interested there, luke@dublincoding.ie, just email me. I'd be happy to have a call after this show, and we can talk about what you're looking to achieve.
Great. Then Prasanna, who works in business and IT, has asked, what is job placement percentage?
So that's another good question. So obviously we're a new school here in Ireland, and we've actually placed already somebody into one of our partners as a junior data analyst. But in our other schools across Europe, for people that stick with us and are motivated, it's between 80 to 85% of people getting a role afterwards, either through us or getting the job themselves. But people who stick with the Career Centre. Now we will help you go for interviews and keep you on our books for even up to a year afterwards, where we'll be sending your CV around. Brilliant. And sometimes students have come back when they've had a job, lost their job again, come back to us and said, look, I'm back on the jobs market, can you help? And if they're an alumni, we do help. We're a friendly company. We don't say, oh, well, you need to register again. We say, oh, okay, well, look, we'll send you around,
Super. Last question then. This comes from Paul, I think it's Paul Brophy again. Do you get course notes as part of the package for reference?
Yeah, of course, absolutely. So after every lecture, if you're on a course, it might be for 2 or 3 months. You're doing it for 2 to 3 nights a week, 3 hours an evening. It's all recorded, and there are slides and there's supplementary notes. And then when you log back into your student hub the next day, the recording is there, the slides are there. So yes, absolutely you do. And if you miss a lecture, you can watch it again and do the work. So
Brilliant.
it works, yeah.
Great. Well, Luke Treacy from the Dublin Coding School, it was a real pleasure to get to listen to you speak this morning. And I think there'll be a lot of people feeling very optimistic after hearing you speak, and maybe even considering starting their own coding journey, which I think would be absolutely amazing. So thank you so much. And again, that's Luke Treacy from Dublin Coding School. Very